James. I'm a 46-year-old white male, a gay man. We live in East Sussex, having very recently moved there from London, where we lived previously for about 21 years. And together with my partner John, we adopted our son about 11 years ago, so 2010 now, so quite some time. When we were first looking into adopting, it had been a few years previously to that, so maybe around 2005, we started sort of thinking about it. We knew we'd always wanted to adopt. We knew we always wanted children. And in fact, when we first looked into it, we weren't even sure that as a gay couple we could adopt. So we went to a local meeting in Peckham where they were having an adoption night, and we kind of snuck in the back, like hoping we wouldn't stick out like sore thumbs. But they're actually really welcoming. I think it had only been a few years previously that gay couples weren't allowed to adopt. So we were really excited and felt welcome at that prospect that they let us into this meeting, and were so welcoming to us. So when we came a few years later to adopt, the adoption process, we approached that borough, but because they had a policy where they don't adopt into their own borough, we looked at other local London boroughs near us, and we met with a couple of them, I think, not too many, because we felt that one of them, which was quite local to us, kind of ticked every box for us. And the sort of things that we were looking for was that they said quite clearly that they had a lot of experience in dealing with same-sex couples for adoption, which obviously ticked a massive box for us. Worried that there may be some sort of prejudice against us, or, you know, as I say, it was quite early on those days, so we were worried about any prejudice that we might be up against. So that was a huge box ticked for us. And meeting them, they just felt really relaxed and very open to us as well. And I think they got us quite early on. So it felt like a very natural borough to go with, I think. So I'm really glad we did, in hindsight. I think compared to other people, I've talked to a lot of adopted families, and I think compared to other people, we had quite a plain sailing ride, really, with that agency. So for that, we're really thankful. I think the good points of the whole process were that it was quite a therapeutic process. So we got to think about what makes us tick and what things push our buttons, potential triggers. And so I kind of learned a lot about myself, really, which I hadn't really done that before in my life. So that was quite interesting. I also dealt with quite a few demons from the past, which I thought that I dealt with, but in hindsight really hadn't. So it was interesting to revisit some of those points and work out what effect they'd had on me in my life and how they would affect me sort of moving forward and having a family. I think there were some hard times going through that as well. So some of those demons that I had to deal with in the past, there were quite real and raw emotions that came up. So perhaps I wasn't quite prepared for that in the process, but really no stone was left unturned. I think my partner is quite naturally open and likes to talk about his feelings. And for me, that was quite a hard thing at first. It didn't really come naturally to me. I didn't really want to talk about much from my past. So I quite enjoyed that process, actually, and I felt it really opened me up to those things. And in fact, some of those things I had to deal with from the past, that the local agency helped me with that quite considerably, and they helped me get a counsellor and just to talk them through in more depth, and that also really helped to a certain extent. So they were really supportive in that respect. I think early on, when we had to go to the days where they pick you out against different couples, you go away for an away day, or it's an away 3 days really. You're there with other prospective adopters, and you're watched by several social workers, and they write down everything you say and do. And I think those situations really made me quite nervous at the time, because obviously we really wanted this process to happen and we didn't want to be rejected at any point. So we were very wary of what we said. But I think I wish I'd been a bit more relaxed and open in those situations. It's easy to say that now because we've gone through the whole thing, but it was quite daunting at the time, definitely, the enormity of that. It was quite surprising, actually. At certain times during that process, they wrote down things that I had said in like coffee meetings, and really that I thought were quite off the cuff, but they listened to everything, so be careful. Anyway, as we progressed with this agency, They asked us lots of questions about what sort of child we would take on, what kind of child we wanted. For us, we always thought we would like a boy. And also we talked about what we could potentially take on in a child, you know, if they've got a disability or a learning disability or anything like that, you know, that might crop up. And we were quite frank about what we thought we could handle and what we couldn't. Yeah, those are important discussions to have. For us, the whole process, I think back in those days, it happened quite quickly for us. And it was about a year from the day we started the process with the agency to the day that our son arrived, actually, so quite quick. I don't know how long it takes now. Hopefully it's sped up a bit. And I know there are different ways of doing it now with foster to adopt, but that wasn't really available then, foster to adopt, because this is obviously 10, 11 years ago. But anyway, they were very supportive through that process. We had one social worker throughout who really was very experienced and knew her stuff and sort of led us down the way. And in fact, when we came to matching, we stuck with that agency, and they'd already had a child in mind for us for some time, apparently. And once we'd been approved for adoption, they showed us his files, his photos and his videos. And we knew absolutely he was the one for us. And in fact, yes, we did eventually end up adopting him about 2 months later. So that's when we first met him. So we're forever grateful and indebted to them for matching us so perfectly. And I know that not all adoption processes go this smoothly or that simple, but for us it really was quite straightforward in that respect. So yeah, we're forever grateful to that. And also the support carried on for a few more years as well. Later on, as our child got older, it became aware that we needed a bit more support with behavioural issues, and they paid for a couple of courses. You know, all these years later, they paid for a great behavioural breakdown course, which I can highly recommend for anybody. In fact, any adopters should do that course. It's all about behaviour and how you can help your child to overcome the problems they will have. You know, some of them, to some extent, will have some problems from adoption because of early trauma. So just minimising any problems that come from that. It really helped us. And they also paid for another course called Body and Mind, quite similar actually, to do with sort of therapeutic techniques to help with your child's behaviour. Equally really good. So yeah, I have to say we felt really supportive from them throughout. So I mean that's really all I got to say about the process itself, of the actual adoption process. Just looking back over 11 years, it's been the best 11 years ever. I can't tell you how amazing it's been. Our son is just adorable and loving and the best child you could ever want, although I'm sure every parent says that. You know, it's been hard, it's been challenging, but it's 100% worth it. And I would never, ever go back to life how it was. And that's how we built our family. So good luck with yours. It's definitely worth it.